As someone that has a good deal of Scandinavian ancestry that includes Danish Viking, and as a fan of the Vikings TV show, I was really excited to visit a place with so much Viking history. Naturally, Waterford was one of the first places on my list of destinations when I began planning my trip. My first stop of the day was the Waterford Treasures Archaeology Museum, which begins in a 13th century chorister's hall. Rumor has it that the sounds of singing can still be heard coming from the hall in the surrounding area. One of the reasons I felt drawn to Waterford was that it was the city in which Richard de Clare and Eva McMurrough got married. And if you've been following my series, you'll already know that I've been researching my ancestry and have found that I'm related to the subjects in the story. If the research is correct, then Eva and Richard would be my 24th and 26th great-grandparents. I know it's wild, and I still have a hard time wrapping my brain around it. Dermot McMurrough, Eva's dad and King of Leinster, got into quite a spot of trouble and got himself exiled from Ireland. He went to King Henry II for help. Henry gave him permission to recruit from his people, and that's when Dermot was introduced to Richard de Clare, 2nd Earl of Pembroke, a Welsh noble, also known as Strongbow. Gerald of Wales, the chronicler, described Richard like this: his complexion was somewhat ruddy and his skin freckled. He had gray eyes, feminine features, a weak voice, and a short neck. For the rest, he was tall and a man of great generosity and courteous manner. Richard was born about 1130 in Tonbridge, England, the son of Gilbert de Clare, 1st Earl of Pembroke, and Isabel de Beaumont. During the English Civil War known as the Anarchy between King Stephen and Empress Matilda, Richard and his father supported Stephen, who granted them the title Count of Strigil, Earl of Pembroke. Richard's father died around 1148, so at around 18, Richard inherited his father's lands and title. And then in 1154, King Henry II, son of Empress Matilda, was crowned and stripped Richard of his titles as a punishment for supporting Stephen over his mother. So Richard, faced with some issues of his own and his own ambitions, agreed to the deal with Dermot, which granted him Eva's hand in marriage and his lands upon his death in return for helping Dermot regain his kingdom. Richard was to head to Ireland in the spring, bringing with him an army. Richard didn't want to create more issues with the king, so he writes to him for permission. He waits 2 years, then decides to go anyway. At the last minute, Henry tried to forbid it, but Richard defied Henry and went anyway. So Strongbow and his entourage of around 200 knights and 1,000 other troops landed near Waterford on the 23rd of August, 1170, and seized the city. On August 25th, Eva and Richard married in Christ Church Cathedral. Not much is known about Eva. It's unfortunate, but women were not really considered noteworthy through most of history, and Eva is no exception. This is really all I know. Her father was Dermot McMurrough, and her mother More O'Toole. She was, according to some sources, born April 26th, 1143, making her 17 approximately when she married Richard, who was around 40 at the time. Richard and Eva had a son, Gilbert, and a daughter, Isabel. And after Richard passed away in 1176, she didn't remarry. When she passed away, she was buried alongside her father-in-law, Gilbert Fitzgilbert, in Tintern Abbey, Monmouthshire. Although the bones of Tintern Abbey still stand, her grave has been lost. There's a book called The Irish Princess by Elizabeth Chadwick that I started reading, and it's historical fiction, so not, the most true account, but so far it's quite good. If you would like to know more, join me in reading the book and let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear any stories or information that has to do with Eva's life. The marriage of Strongbow and Eva has been the subject of some magnificent art, including the painting The Marriage of Strongbow and Eva by Daniel McLeese that is housed in the National Gallery of Ireland. In Waterford, on the grounds of the Bishop's Palace, you'll find sculptures to commemorate the pair. The sculptures are actually chairs, so you can sit in the lap of Eva and Strongbow. The thought of it super creeped me out, so I did not partake, and I just kept a respectful distance. Just around the block from the sculptures in the Viking Triangle, a historic area of the city is Reginald's Tower, Ireland's oldest civic building. It has been in continuous use for over 800 years. It has been a mint, a prison, a munitions store, and now a museum. The climb to the top was a bit of an experience during a heat wave, but at the top there was a little movie playing that explained some history, and so I sat, caught my breath, in the room all by myself, imagining what it would have been like throughout the past 800 years, and ultimately decided that it probably was not a place I would have wanted to see through most of history. Around noon, it was time to say goodbye to Waterford. I hit the road and headed to the Rock of Cashel. The Rock of Cashel was originally the seat of the kings of Munster. Legendary King Brian Boru was crowned High King of Ireland there in 978 and made it his capital. Brian Boru fits into my ongoing research as an ancestor of Dermot McMurrough. I believe it would have been his great-great-grandfather. By the end of my outing to Cashel, I was exhausted. I drove the 2 hours to Killarney, walked the streets looking for a table at a restaurant for dinner, but everywhere was packed, and I eventually found a table in Druid's restaurant in Killarney Avenue Hotel. I ate some dinner, and then I went back to my B&B to replan the monster of a day I had originally planned for the following day. Everyone I spoke to along my journeys complained of the heat. It was so bad that the Advil gel caps in my bag melted or exploded. I was supposed to check out a bunch more attractions in the area like Muckross House and Ross Castle, but it was just not humanly possible. If I had more time in Killarney, I would definitely check those places out, and I would definitely spend a day checking out all of the pubs I walked by with the incredible sounding live music. Next time.